Hello, everyone. My name is Cassie Davis, the Meet the Musician Project Manager for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and welcome back to another Meet the Musician. Today, we get the honor of bringing the second of our guest artists, cellist Cole Randolph, to our YouTube platform before our concert. He'll be performing the Antonio Vivaldi Concerto for two cellos in G minor with our other guest artist who you met last week, Kyle Price, in our May 1st concert, Roman Holiday. So Cole, you were originally from Washington, D.C. and took up the cello at age 5. That's younger than most orchestral students, as the usual age is around 10 years old. Can you tell us how you began playing?
So my older sister began playing violin when she was young. And then my older brother kind of just followed her. And then my twin sister and I were born. My dad thought that we could put together this family string quartet. So he forced not, physical force, but he forced me to play cello because it's bigger, and then my twin sister to play viola. So now we still have the family string quartet, and that's how I started.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You've played at a lot of really cool places. If you remember, what's the one performance venue that stood out to you the most?
One time as a family string quartet, we played at this community event, and it was some Saturday. It was outside at a community park, and it was a lot of like homeless people and people that usually wouldn't show up to concerts at the concert hall.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it was kind of like a block party event, and they were playing a lot of rap music, and everybody was dancing and having fun. And then it was time for us to go on stage and play. So people kind of started booing because they were like, we want to have fun, we want to party.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we started playing the first few notes of Pachelbel's Canon, everybody was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And some people had tears in their eyes. And that really was the time that showed me how powerful music could be. Because, at the fancy events, everybody claps. And it's great to know that your music is appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
But when you play in these untraditional settings and you see the true power of it, it really sticks with you. So that was my my favorite.
At what age did you know you?
So when I was young, when I first started, like 5 years old, and then probably 1 or 2 years in, I used to run around the halls of my youth orchestra, DC Youth Orchestra. And I used to say, "Oh, I'm going to be the next Yo-Yo Ma." Like tell everybody that, even though I just started. And then I was set on it. And then when I got to high school, I was the typical high school freshman. I wanted the girls to like me. I wanted the popularity. So I knew I had to put cello aside for basketball because, my older brother played basketball too, so I just followed after him. And that was the more, popular decision. So I chose to do that. And then when I went to college, I came back to cello. And I was still iffy about cello in college too, so I took a little bit of time off. And then after I came back to it the second time in college, then that's really when I was like, okay, I'm dead set on cello. I'm not going to do anything else if it's going to steer me off the path of music. So I wasn't I'm going to go music all out. And then since I was 5, and then ever since I've stuck with it, I was bouncing around a lot and then finally decided to stick with it.
And that's what mostly happens with musicians, is that they have other hobbies that interest them. So everyone has their own journey of how they decide to get there. That's really cool. So you graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison last year with a Bachelor
Go Badgers.
Science degree, with majors in mathematics, economics, and music/cello performance. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience going from student out into the working world, especially during a COVID pandemic?
Yeah, so it's interesting because my last semester, or not last semester, but halfway through the semester is when COVID hit. And funny thing is, the weekend before the shutdowns happened, like throughout the whole country, I had my Detroit Symphony audition. And that was great. I was grateful to have it. And then that next week, everything shut down. Like they told us we had spring break, and then Madison told us we wouldn't come back. But it's been interesting because having the opportunity to play with DSO now, we can't all fit on the stage as one orchestra because we have to socially distance. So now we do like an orchestra A, orchestra B, like switch off thing type thing per week, every week. And I can't really say I've had the typical orchestra experience because, you know, sitting socially distanced from your stand partner, everybody has their own stands, but sitting so far from somebody you would normally be able to put your arm around, it's really crazy. And part of the fellowship here actually is taking lessons. So a lot of that has been over Zoom, or if we can get a socially distanced like environment set up, then we can do it. But I'm honestly grateful to play with DSO and make music right now because I didn't realize how much I enjoyed playing with other people until the pandemic hit. Because when it hit, chamber shut down, orchestra shut down, so we couldn't do anything. And you could try to play one part and then put an earphone in and play the other part and then do a stitch with your friend or something like that. But it's not the same as doing it live. So it's been great hopping into the big leagues, if you want to say that. But there's also no audience. So we don't get that feedback and we don't get that energy exchange when we play. So it's kind of hard to answer that question because I'm not in the typical orchestra schedule or orchestra season right now, but it's been great. It's been great.
That's great. As you progress in your career, especially as a recent graduate, what are some of the challenges that you see yourself facing today?
I think the biggest challenge is satisfaction. Like I've asked a lot of the musicians in DSO why they decided to join the orchestra. And they all had great answers, and I think about myself a couple of years from now, or, a year from now, joining an orchestra full time and getting that musical satisfaction because, every week is a different program. In college, we spent maybe a month or over a month on an orchestra program. So we had a lot of time to build a relationship with that piece, right? And then perform it. In this case, it's every week is a new thing, so I think keeping that enthusiasm for music, creating music, and also make sure you're satisfied. So if the satisfaction isn't as great as it was at the beginning when you're playing the orchestra, some people go play chamber concerts or play solo concerts or even do community outreach. So my thing is, I want to do something that I'm very passionate about in terms of music, and that also makes an impact. Because in school, all we focus on is, okay, we have to get better at our instruments. And personally, I developed this box thinking of what success meant in terms of music, in terms of classical music, really. So I really thought of cello as classical, and I didn't really think of it as jazzy or playing in pop songs or stuff like that. So not being in the walls of school now and just being on my own, I feel like I have the opportunity to try things out that I wouldn't get to try out when I was in school, or I just wouldn't try out when I was in school because I had other things to focus on. So.
Yeah, and so you talked a little bit about the Detroit Symphony, going from student to fellow with them. What was that process like, and how did you make the decision to be a part of that institution?
Well, it's funny because when I was young, I had a math teacher that, I hope this isn't a superficial answer. I had a math teacher that I was kind of scared of, but I respected her a lot, and she taught me a lot. And she was from Detroit. So she would always talk about Detroit Pistons. So that ended up being my favorite basketball team, still my favorite basketball team. And when I saw the announcement for the audition come up, I was like, oh, I can, Detroit Symphony is a great orchestra. And I would have the opportunity to go to Pistons games, And community outreach is something I'm very passionate about. And I know that it can have a lot of power in Detroit rather than some other cities that are more business-minded or more developed. So when I got after we had the audition and they let us know who the fellows were, I accepted it on the spot because there was no question for that. But the transition was interesting because at first we thought the fellowship was going to be online because COVID was just that bad. Like over the summertime, we thought it was going to start online. But DSO was actually one of the only orchestras, professional orchestras, to stay open, whatever that means, stay open, but still give concerts. And they also were one of the first orchestras to already have the digital like concert series set up. So it wasn't this huge change. You know, they didn't have to go out and buy all these cameras and all this live stream equipment because they already had that in place. So it was interesting. We had to get COVID tested every week we play. So we had to get the nose things, which isn't fun, but it's better than, getting COVID. But it's been a great time.
You talked a little bit earlier about a box that musicians put them in. And so that can affect our mindset of how we view success in this industry. So looking forward into your future of different possibilities, all we hear when discussing musician jobs is the term making it and jumping through all the hoops just to be able to use this term. In your eyes, how would you know if you had made it?
I think I'll know when I make it when something inside me tells me that I make it. Because a lot of people can say, "Oh, Cole, you made it," but that's not going to mean anything. But it's interesting because I was watching an interview on the Violin Channel YouTube channel, and they were interviewing all these famous, cellists, pianists, all this stuff. And one of the questions was, how have you become so successful? Or how have you, attained this level of success in a field that's so competitive? And they were like, well, I can't really say that I'm more successful than, a high school conductor or orchestra conductor or even a high school music teacher. Like, they're just as successful as me, and sometimes we think of success as this, fame and fortune, we don't think we're successful until we make it on, have 1 million Instagram followers and all this stuff. But I thought that was interesting because I expected them to say, "Oh, I got here because I worked harder than everybody else." Boom, boom, boom. But they didn't say that. So for me, I think when I'm able to impact thousands, not millions of people's lives, then I'll know that I made it.
So can you tell us about what else you're currently working on so that we can keep an eye out for you in the future?
Yeah, so I have a lot of projects that are under wraps right now, so I can't mention it. But one thing I've been doing is posting on Instagram every week. Because one thing I noticed was that a lot of my friends in college that were not in the School of Music would only attend my orchestra concerts because I was playing. That was the only reason, right? And we talk about the classical music community talks about how orchestras are dying out or classical music is dying out, which I don't agree with. I think it's more of the presentation that has been a little outdated. But I wanted to find a way to bridge commercial music, so like pop music, rap music, whatever, and classical, to show that, okay, classical music is actually really cool, but the way I've been presented it in the past just was corny or unrelatable, So I started doing these covers on Instagram. So I started choosing a song that I liked on the radio or Spotify, whatever, that I liked or that was popular, and then find a classical piece that would mesh well with it. And then every week I post a video, whether it's like a short little reel or like a 2-minute, 3-minute long video. And I'll mix the melody from the pop song with a melody or counter melody, whatever, from a classical piece. And I feel like that reception that I've gotten from this meshing of these two genres is way more popular than if I just play some classical music for my friends and then they start falling asleep. Like, I think classical music is so beautiful, but it's not, it's hard to understand if you've never been in that environment before. Like, if you say, oh, did you hear that beautiful deceptive cadence? People are going to look at you like, what are you talking about? So I think if you present classical music in a like corny way and present it with something else, then people might be more receptive to it. And that doesn't mean, make one genre and discount the other two genres. Like, classical music in itself is a beautiful thing. Beautiful. Like, I love it. And pop music, I love it too, So, especially for kids, when they see the covers, like, some people, email me and they say, oh, can I send this to my students or send this to like a student teacher, so their students can watch it. And when they see that cello is like cool and it can be put in a rap song or put in a pop song that they hear all the time and they sing along with, then they're like, oh, I want to go out and play this. Rather than hearing a Bach suite and saying, oh, that was nice, but it didn't get me energized or it didn't really do much to me. So that's the project I'm working on now. But the other stuff, you'll find out about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone, unfortunately, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Meet the Musician. Make sure you purchase your tickets to the Roman Holiday concert this Saturday, May 1st, using the link that will be at the description bar below. What else will be there is Cole's Instagram so that you can see all of these videos. And we hope to see you at the concert and have you join us for the rest of this season's Meet the Musician episodes. Have a great week, guys.